So I have to press start judging for the live stream. Okay. Okay, judges and audience. Today we're judging the 2018 AIPP Illustrative category, sponsored by AIPP. My name is William Long. I'm your panel chair for this session. Our judging panel consists of, not in any particular order, Melissa Anderson, Mike Langford, Jackie Rankin, Leslie Downey and David Evans. Also in our judges we have here today is Darren Jew, Adam Horanatri and Mark Duffus. So I'll just go through the category preamble. Illustrative photography is a general category designed to recognize photographs taken or produced to illustrate a subject or topic. Images may be conceptual or representative in nature, and examples include images taken to illustrate a magazine article, website or book cover, but may also be outtakes from assignment, stock photography, personal project or creative expression. Entries into this category may be commissioned or self-commissioned. The category will be judged in two sections: illustrative photography, analog and historical process photography. Do I need to go through that? Probably not. Okay, analog and historical process entries are first generation prints, which may include fiber-based prints from negatives, carbon prints, salt prints, gum bichromates, platinum and palladium prints, Van Dyke browns, cyanotypes, tintypes, bromo prints, dye transfer, emulsion lifts and emulsion transfers, and chromogenic prints made through an enlarger, not a laser imaging printer. It is permissible to create a larger contact into negative through digital means. This may be made by inkjet printing or laser printing onto a clear film, but may not be manipulated in any way that could not be traditionally done in a wet darkroom. Size of the entry has been abolished to allow for some processes as the film format of the camera can dictate the final image size. Post-production is limited to changes that may be made using conventional darkroom techniques such as spotting dust and scratches, dodging and burning, and adjusting contrast and exposure. Composite images and photos with added special effects borders or backgrounds are not permitted. Although the category is judged in two sections, to assist the judge in their assessment, there is only one award. And can I just make it clear that that last paragraph about limited to any changes, etc., was specifically for the analog and historical process entries, okay? So we're all clear on that? Seems quite a mouthful. Okay. Everyone ready? Okay. Next print, please. Just waiting for the iPad to tell me. It's not coming up with the average. Wow. Has it come up on there? Okay. Hasn't come up on here. Issue here. The print scores 81, silver. Mike, You're near the average. Could you just say a couple of words, please?
Sure. A little bit more clarity around the main image would have made it much stronger. So if you can revisit this and just separate that out, it would be much stronger.
Thank you, Mike. Next print, please. Leslie, do we have your score? This print scores 78. David, can I just ask you to...
Yeah, I think the narrative of the story isn't quite clear enough for me, and I'd just like a bit more clarity with that in a shorter space of time, rather than trying to think too much about it.
Thank you. Next print, please. Just waiting for the iPad again. This print scores 79. Okay. Are you? I just want to make a comment. Okay. Yes, please. Thanks.
Look, this is a great concept and a great idea, and I think the story is very strong, and I think the image is being let down technically quite substantially. So if the photographer could go back to the concept and work on that issues, I think they've got a stronger image.
Thank you, Leslie. Next print, please. This print scores 79. Jackie, can you make a couple of
Yes,
statements?
To score that silver range, I think it needs some more tonal range between the reds and the graphic elements of the zebra. There's just something. There's information missing that needs to be. We need to get in to be able to enjoy a texture of paper or something.
Okay, thank you very much. Next print, please. This print scores 76. And a challenge from Leslie Downey, she's on 81. Scores 74, 75, 81, 72 and 76.
I enjoy this image very much for its originality and its mystery. Its visualisation from the photographer to create something different. In the illustrative category, we don't necessarily have to find stories or anything, but just be pleased to see an image which ticks a lot of boxes to do with creativity. The blue colour is strong. I think it adds to the image, but I think it's the originality of that fact of the shadow coming through which I'm assuming is some sort of an insect wing. I've never seen an image like this before, and so I'm very intrigued by it. It's sharp. I think it's well executed. It's certainly intriguing, and I could see this sitting quite in a silver award for a photographer that's imagined something and executed it quite well above a normal professional practice.
Okay, thank you. David, would you like to say something?
I'm appreciative of those comments because I think you might be right. I initially saw it as quite static and perhaps not telling very much of a story, but I think the restraint is probably a good thing, and just the simplicity of the form is enough.
Thank you, David. Mike Langford, 72.
I gave the 72, which is professional practice. I actually find that the bottom of the image very muddy. In fact, that there's sort of a dark halo around the shadow that's not making the shadow strong enough to be a representation of a shadow from the upper part. Also around the upper part there are highlights that just take my eye away from the texture of the whole. So it's fragmented for me in its visual communication in terms of I don't know what it is. It's not pleasing to the eye because the centre of the image is very empty and the bottom of the image is very muddy. So I'm really struggling with this conceptually.
Okay, Leslie, right of reply.
Because the image appears to break a lot of the photographic rules that we're used to, I think that then adds attention to it. The shadow at the bottom, I enjoy it being so soft because it does keep your eye back on the main subject at the top. If that had been sharper, more dense, then I think that you would have had that problem of not knowing which bit to look at first. But the fact that that is soft is keeping your eye back up at the top. And for me, it's just an image of great intrigue. And the little highlights around it, I don't really have a problem with, because we're not looking at something which is real here. We're looking at something which is imagined. And so from that point of view, I think there's got to be, well, for me anyway, I forgive a few little things here and there for that, because the overall impression of the image is something very imaginative with, you know, tension and, well, it's got impact. And if it was on a wall somewhere, you'd have to go up and look at it and say, what is that? So I think it's well crafted, and I would like 2 other judges to come into the silver range, please.
Okay, judges, please rescore. Leslie keeps her score at 81. Sorry, waiting for this again. Print scores 78. Thank you very much. Next print, please. This print scores 72. Jackie, just some quick words, please.
I think care needs to be taken on the resolving where that crystallis comes out of the stem, and the light that going behind those other lights. There's some just a bit more editing needs to be applied.
Thank you, Jackie. Next print, please. This print scores silver with distinction. Melissa, would you just like to say something on it?
Am I allowed to say anything? I am now. I think this is a silver distinction. It's innovative. It's got emotive content. The story. There's lots of graphic leading lines. The colour palette is lovely. You know, the little diagrams, which people in the background probably can't see, of faces actually in the centre area of the star. So it gives an emotive response to cities and corporations. So yeah, well executed. Great concept. Well done.
Thank you. Next print, please. I'm still waiting, sorry. Hates me. Print is a majority 80, silver. David, would you like to say something, please?
I really love this. I think it could even score higher if there was a little bit more space at the top. It's just a bit too much tension with the top of the bun of the head, and perhaps a little bit more sharpness in the eyes, because the lips are really, really sharp. But I love the concept, and congratulations. But it could do even better.
Thank you. Next print, please. Knowing this. Sprint scores 83, silver. And Leslie, just a couple of words. So, did you have your hand up, Mike? No, it's good. Okay.
Very successful image. I think it would perhaps score a lot higher, to me anyway, if the figure in the middle wasn't quite so central. I know there's a lot of story going on all around, and I think we've all read that, and the lighting, but it's just sort of the placement and the light very close to his head, which is not sitting all that comfortable with me, but great image.
Thanks very much. We'll just do a judge change. Thanks, Mike. Mark Duffus, if you'd like to join us, please. I just have to do a judge change here. I'm waiting for this. Okay. Thank you very much. Next print, please. I thought that was music. It's the water. There's the water over there. This print scores 68. Just very quickly, sorry, Mark, just quick comment.
This is a bit of a standard scene for anybody with teenagers, but I think obviously the execution has left everybody feeling a little bit. It could have been composed a lot better, executed a lot better technically as well. That would have brought it up into the professional practice. At the moment, it sits just below there with the way it's been executed and presented.
Thanks very much, Mark. Next print, please. Okay, this print scores 89, and Mark's challenge 92. Your scores are scores you're dealing with all pretty close. 90, 92, 88, 87, 88. Off you go.
This image based the imagination, thought, and execution of a representation of the corporate environment. And if anybody hasn't picked up, the top of those are the ends of containers. So they've all been people have been compartmentalized into a box, and the fact that the people are in different windows in each one, and also the Escher construction of the overlapping, that we have a shape within a cube within a. There's so many elements and levels that this works out that it goes beyond just award standard. It goes into imaginative and originality, and that's why I put it up into gold, straight into 92, because of the level of thought that's gone into this. The background is almost just like the plain canvas to put something that really gets you to go in there and look at the construction and the design and the thought that has gone into process this, and the fact that each one is quite unique in its construction and its design. And they've formed a pattern to make that. And this is where it's gold, because we've been presented with something that is very special.
Melissa, you're on 87.
Yeah, I think sometimes you need to actually sit with images for a while. And so thank you for challenging. I sat thinking gold, high silver distinction. I found this image quite disturbing, and I couldn't really articulate. It was the symmetry. I did get the compartmentalizing of boxes and people living within boxes, and but I found it quite disturbing, and I needed to sit with that. So I'm happy to go up. I think in terms of its craft, it is amazing. I love the individuality of all of the cubes and the personality. The colour I quite enjoy, that green and that coldness with blue, that it feels disturbed and it feels like a simulate Borg kind of feel. So yeah, I'm happy to go up to gold.
Jackie.
I'm on 88, and I'm still listening. I have a problem with the circular area being so close to the edge of frame. Like it was, maybe the author didn't know how to finish it off. But perhaps that's creating a sense of tension that is enamoured in the storytelling of it. Perhaps I would have liked to have seen a little bit less repetition in the surface of the top of the boxes. And is this where's that hook? Where is the one figure? Where is that one thing that the question is, or pulls me into a narrative that's different? One figure, one area. That just needs that little bit extra for me, maybe.
Thank you, Jackie. David.
I think I hear what you're saying. I think that's quite deliberate, because I think this is about the madness, and I don't think you're not meant to rest on anything. I think having the Escher kind of circular thing going on, it draws you in, and you don't know where to stop. And it's about madness and compartmentalizing, being hurled through space even, and I just really enjoy the ride that you're not going to get off.
As it's a gold, Leslie, would you like to say something? It's behind.
It's not a gold
We're talking
yet,
about
but
gold.
It probably will be. Look, it's absolutely superb. Everything that everybody has said is very valid. I too struggled with the circle part, but the more I look at that, I'm sort of looking at this as a comment on it being global, because whether this is corporate boxes or living boxes, and everybody's got their boxes, there is still some sort of connection to the body, but it's not human. And the fact that the circle is there, to me, is just saying this is global. It almost looks like clouds in the background, that this is sort of worldwide. So anyway, it's absolutely brilliant in concept, and I'm happy to go up.
Thank you, Leslie. Mark, your right of reply.
Okay, the design and construction of the shapes and the impact from when you're standing back. Basically, if you look at, I think you need to look at that as a logo or a symbol. So we have the squares in the circle. Circles are very powerful when it comes to logos, and it's very feng shui and everything else. So it's part of, you know, every major brand in the world, there is a circle. And this is where it's like deconstructing the corporate brand to show the boxes that they create to make their big empire so great. And I think the tag or the hook is basically the individual elements that are shown in each window. We are given such uniformity. The circle is a beautiful, you know, it's a continuing thing. And the lids are all similar, but the faces of each cube are quite unique. And that's, so there, it works at these different levels, and it brings you in, and then you look around the image. And I think that is probably the beauty of how it's been constructed. And that's why I think it sort of probably goes beyond where I scored it at 92 and above.
Okay, judges rescore. Mark, you keep your score at 92. Waiting. I know, it's not on mine. I know. This print scores gold 93. Thank you, judges. Next print, please. This print scores 81, silver. Jackie, would you just like to say a couple of words?
To get into the next scoring range, perhaps there needs to be some sort of mystery in there, extra mystery. I mean, we're all in very similar 83, low 80s, but where do we take it further? Is it an intensity of light, maybe more direction onto the figure, and lightening and darkening around the edges, added more drama, maybe?
Thank you, Jackie. We'll just do a judge change now. Jackie, thank you. Just have a rest. Darren Jew, please. And I'll just wait till I can log you in. Tick, 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 tick. Next print, please. This print scores 78. Mark, you're near the middle.
This is obviously heading down the road of a social documentary. I think I was left wondering what the complete story was. There's a lot of in front of a medical centre, but I'm sort of wondering, with the suitcase out, why? So there are a lot of unanswered questions. I think could take it further if were told a little bit more as to why she's there.
Thank you very much. Next print, please. This print scores 74. Yep, there's a challenge from David. David, you're on 80. The scores are 73, 71, 72, 76 and 80, so you've got a bit of work to do.
Okay, all right. Well, this is a little different. I think it's a group hug of the universe. It's very psychedelic. I really enjoy the colours, and I just think it's something different that we're presented with that's not necessarily highly constructed, but just a graphic representation of shapes and swirls and so on. I think it's successful as a design sort of composition, certainly above what it scored, which is why I'm challenging.
Melissa.
Yeah, I scored this in the professional practice range. I enjoy the colour and I enjoy the texture. I guess what I was looking for to bring it into a silver award is I'm looking for a little bit more communication to tell me what this is about, and I really struggled with that. I would also like to see, the central feature, which I'm assuming is the red sphere to me, and I found that a little bit murky. It was sort of lighter on the right-hand side into this area. So I struggled a little bit to be able to take it into a silver award, but I'm listening.
David, you've got a right to reply.
Yeah, I mean, I just enjoy the open-ended qualities of, what it is, because it is more of a design rather than a necessarily a complete story. I think, you could look at that lying in the dentist chair for hours and still be thinking different things.
Thank you, David, for that. David keeps his score of 80, and please rescore judges. This print scores 76. We'll do a judge change. Thank you very much. David, thank you. We'll give you a break. Adam Horrigan, please. Come on, accept. Don't do it to me. Please. This print scores 77. And I have a challenge from Leslie, who's on 82. The scores are 77, 72, 82, 78, and 75.
Yeah, I love the composition of this image, the strength of the left-hand side to balance out the numerous trees on the right. But apart from that, I think the most important thing that's really hitting me is the mood of it, the blurriness of it, the dreamlike quality of it. And if you are in a forest like this with heavy mist coming through, the light has got that blue quality. So it feels cold. But as your eye goes around from left to right and then comes back into that bright highlight area in the centre, the man walking off in the distance is where your eye sets. And so the human element in there just gives it that extra dimension. So I'm looking at this with a beautiful feeling with a story and a dreamlike quality. And I think it's been beautifully presented. The highlight in the centre is, where your eye rests, and then you come down and find the little man there. So, yes, I enjoy it very much.
Mark, you're on 72. Were you? No, sorry.
Oh, that's
Sorry.
harsh.
But Mark, anyway.
Yes,
We'll
Mark
come to
anyway.
you.
I think they've created quite an emotional scene, and that does give an emotive response with the colour tone and also the soft fronds of the pine trees, right? And leading you down to and look into to find that person with the umbrella walking off in the distance. But one of the distracting elements that I had just above that person is the visual distortion of the dark element, that tree, and the continuity of that with trees on the right and the left. It would left me a bit questioning, well, why? Which would sort of imply movement and everything else, but a lot of the other elements aren't moving. So there was a little bit of... I'd congratulate the author on there, or the creator, on what the colour and tone and the mist and everything else they've used to create it. Just some of the resolving factors with the elements and the movement to the trees, I think, have left it down, for me, just down into standard professional practice.
Okay, thank you. Melissa?
Yeah, I scored this 72. I scored it in the professional range. I enjoy the softness from the mist, and I do enjoy the colour palette. And yes, you're definitely right. Those contribute to a mood and a feeling. I do struggle compositionally. I find it quite chaotic, and I can't settle within the image. I find that I'm struggling to find the person with an umbrella. I didn't actually realise it was an umbrella. That took me a bit of time. The ferns down in the foreground on the bottom right-hand side, I find quite distracting. I wish that they were either or out. So compositionally, I'm really struggling with how to read this, the darkness at the top sort of area. So I do enjoy the aspects that that we've discussed, but for me, I saw it as sitting in professional practice rather than a silver.
Okay, Darren next, and then we'll go to Adam, then right to reply.
I'm right to go. I think my comments are going to reflect Melissa's a little bit. I love the mood. I love the colour palette. I love the lack of sharpness and the movement. The feeling of the forest is beautiful. I'm distracted by those ferns in the bottom right. I keep getting drawn down to those, unfortunately. But my main concern is that there is this beautiful mood and mysterious feeling about being in this misty forest, and the figure, it needs that figure, but it's the wrong figure. The story is kind of they're disconnected. That's just a person walking down a path. There's nothing about the figure that kind of connects it to the mood of the forest, which for me, would have taken a higher.
Okay, Adam?
And I think, I read the scene a little differently. I sort of hear the word mist. I actually thought sort of like rain squall, and that's what the umbrella gave to me. And there's a lot of tension. I find there's actually a lot of tension, that movement. You think shaking trees and everything. And then I get to that figure, and it's kind of very static within the frame. It's if that's meant to be a juxtaposition, like a contrast, I don't think it's as communicated as well as what. If it was communicated better, then I could definitely see where we go. But I just find that it's chaotic, and then it doesn't reflect the rest of the frame, and that's what drew me away from it.
Thank you, Adam. Leslie, you've got right to reply.
Yes, there have been a lot of positive comments with this, and everybody getting that same mood out of it. As far as the ferns in the foreground on the right-hand side and the comments about it being a little bit chaotic, I'm actually reading this as a depth within the image, that your eye, reads a foreground, goes to a middle ground, and gets drawn through to the light area in the back, so that and the same with the tree trunk on the left, which is probably closer to her and therefore has got more density to it, and then the trees behind are not as dense, and so your eye is going right through. Whether it's just a quiet, misty scene, or which I still believe it is, because I think if it was going to be a tumultuous, rainstorm, you wouldn't have the branches just sitting like that. They would be, going around. So I think the quiet figure just going off into the distance, to me, sits quite well with what the image story is. And I would like 2 of my judges to come up into the 80 range, please.
Okay, thank you, judges. Please rescore. Leslie, you keep your score at 82. And it's gone up to 78. Okay, we'll just do a judge change. Thank you very much, Leslie. We can have Jackie Rankin back, please. Please. Print scores 84. Jackie, would you just like to say something? You're close to that.
Yeah, I'm on 83. I guess there's a couple that really wanted this to be silver distinction, and I think it. So why didn't I go there? I think it's because of the density of the. No, how could is it the print? I love the idea of it, and the narrative is really great. So, do you want to say why?
Yeah, this is the lifespan of a guy going through relationships, from being single to dating to family to, I fucked it up, I stuffed it up, and basically I'm saying sorry at the end. And even trying to get healthy at the end. Oh, was he getting healthy there? The second last one's healthy. Oh,
Okay. So the two down the end who stuck on 88. Anyway, we'll just do a judge change. Thank you very much, Darren. Thank you. We'll just bring in Cameron. Oh, come on. Sorry, still waiting. Print scores good. Print scores 86. I'm accepting the challenge from Mark. Well, just shove your hand up. It does actually.
does it?
It does.
There you go.
Yes.
Now it's time.
Okay. So, Mark, off you go.
This is a beautiful social statement at the generation, I guess, trying to show the younger generation today of where they're heading with the concept of being buried in virtual reality to the negative result of what's going on outside. And basically, and also, paying homage to the false gods that are basically the world in virtual reality, where they plug in and switch off and just watch a screen, which now, as the headsets and everything else, where they're strapping something to their face and being oblivious to everything else that's going wrong, and the industrial decay that's behind industrialization, they're unaware of what's going on around them. And I think the execution of the way the photographer has basically produced this with the dark images in the foreground plugged into what they perceive to be the white leading light that is the central server or whatever they're looking at. I think it's a great representation and social statement of, a dark, insidious side of what goes on in society.
Okay.
And that's why I put it into gold as something unique.
Sorry to cut you off there. I thought you'd finished. Cameron, you're on 83.
Thank you, Mark, for that excellent description of this image. I first struggled to see the virtual reality thing, so I thank you for bringing that to my attention. I couldn't really fault the image too much, apart from the vignette may be a little bit heavy for my personal taste, but yeah, a little bit wimpy on 83, so I'm definitely listening to the discussion and considering going up.
Melissa, you're on 86.
Yeah, I was on 86, and thank you, Mark, because I did struggle. I felt uncomfortable with it, but I didn't understand the whole story, so thank you. It just cleared it up. And I'm going to go to gold. So I think for me, I particularly like the fact that, we've almost got religious connotations as well in here with, this white dress form and this drape of this iconic, and and these people that are sort of almost bowed in that kind of reverence to this. So I just think this is so powerful, so dark, and done in a really authentic way, it feels to me. So yeah, I'm going gold.
Thank you. Adam, you're on 84.
And it's funny because the concern I had about it, I read the virtual reality thing. What concerned me, it was almost, the figures almost look drawn in, like there's a cartoon element almost to, or a sure, and even just the featurelessness of that middle character. But the more I look at it and the more I sort of reconcile with that story, and even the lighting on those black figures matches, like, so that there's this glow coming from the, because at first I sort of looked at the lighting direction and went, well, why is the different lighting direction? But it's because it's that glow in the middle. That's the power source. I'm quite happy with what I've heard here so far, and I'll support it.
Okay, Mark, you have your right of reply.
I think that the glow from the central figure just adds to the falseness of what the dark figures are looking into, and the fact that we're left with the vignette and everything else just highlights that and reinforces it. And we have the post images of, you know, the industrialization and the decay there as well, and the white shining light is not real.
Judges, if you can all rescore, apart from Mark, who keeps his score. This print scores 92, gold. Next print, please. This print scores 81, silver. Melissa, would you just like to say something about this image, please?
Yeah, I scored this on 82. I enjoy the figure and the placement, you know, the concept of the decay with seasons and things like that. So a nice silver award.
Thank you. Next print, please. Melissa, I'm waiting for your score. Now I'm waiting for my iPad. This print scores 79. We'll just have a comment, please, from Melissa, actually, just very quickly, please.
Again, I put this in professional practice. I think it does have a nice golden mean sort of composition to it. I enjoy that. Nice colour palette. I guess I'm looking for a little bit more emotive content to take it into a silver category.
Thank you. Next print, please. This print scores 78. And Melissa is challenging. She's on 83. The scores are 81, 83, 75, 77, and 76.
I'm still trying. Oh, cool. The moment I saw this, it has a very it straight away struck me as artwork of Frida, or it's got that very Argentinian, South American styling and feeling of the artwork and the setting. It's very simplistic, and it's not overworked. I would like to see perhaps the left-hand side a little bit brought further down, but it has an intensity and an energy to it. It's a little bit different from what we're seeing. It's very almost confronting in its simplicity. And so for me, I saw it sitting as a low silver. I just felt the presence was, breaking the rule and putting this person dead center with this dead center symmetrical expression, the clothing that even goes straight down, the color palette of the blues and the browns and the hues, and this constant reference to butterflies with such a butterfly-less subject. So for me, I found this had so much contrast and tension within it, and that's why I saw it sitting as a low silver, and love to chat about it and see what everyone thinks.
Aki.
I scored at 75. It felt like a jumble of things on stage, badly lit, or not lit as well enough for me to get the message that the things that are lit on that left-hand side are distracting. So that's why I'm not into that silver range. And I felt her expression was a bit bland, that she's waiting for direction, or because she's sitting on stage, and that's where I wasn't bringing me into that next range.
Anyone else? Mark.
I think the subject has great impact. The elements around her are very confusing and distracting, and also the perspective chosen, I don't think assists in the impact of the image either. So that's why I kept it down as professional practice also.
Thank you, Mark. Right of reply, Melissa.
Yeah, I think with me, and as I said, this is a team decision. We all respect that. But for me, I found that the expression isn't bland. It's a cultural, sort of response that in some cultures we're used to people being engaging. In some cultures it is just deadpan. And to me, this is that energy, that deadpan, that confronting nature of it. But I see it as a low silver. I enjoy. Yes, agreed. I would love to see some of the left-hand side brought down a little bit. Enjoy the simplicity to the palette. I do enjoy that this is meant to be real and confronting and straight, and I feel that's what it's meant to be. But yeah, all good.
Thank you, judges. Please rescore. Melissa keeps her score of 83. And the print remains the same at 78. Yes. Yes. Very quick, please.
Just very quickly, the more I look at it from back here, there's quite a defined oval vignette that I can see in with quite a sort of becoming sharpish line around the outside that you can mostly see it over on the left-hand side here, and you follow it right round under her feet. Just that may get you into trouble if this is going forward into APA. Maybe just sort of blend that a little bit better.
Thank you. I'm sure that's going to be very helpful. Next print, please. Okay, I'm just wait for my thing to catch up. All right. This sprint scores 86, but there's a challenge. I've already pressed the button multiple times. And it's eventually true. From Melissa Anderson, who's on 95. There's quite a broad range of scores. 78, 95, 87, 81, 87.
These kind of images hurt my brain. I've got to say that I have to. There's so much information, and it's kind of like a cognitive exercise. What I really enjoy is the contrast with the individual detail cube and the perspective that we've got from, you know, sort of your high key to your low key images to your sky as a background to this floating. And I love the concept that this is all about movement and shape and challenging and contrast, and you know, you're challenging gender ideals in here. That's what this is about, and it's quite confronting when you actually look at the individual images. That you can see that there's very effeminate men in there, and then I think there's actually a transgender. I could have this completely wrong, but there's the wrong wording. But there's a man dressed as a woman, and it's very provocative from in the position. So I love the concept that this has got so many different sides and shapes and movement, and then you've got this concept on gender floating within our world. So for me, it ticks so many boxes in terms of innovative. The handling of this is just. It's just sublime. It's just beautiful. And then when you actually go through and get that emotive story through it, to me, it sits as a gold distinction.
Hang on, Adam. Cameron, please.
I saw this as a really strong geometric image. I found the clouds a little bit distracting in the background. What I struggled to find was the storyline in it. I just see those images as a series of random fashion portrait images. I didn't see that connection with the gender, and I'm still struggling to see it, so I'd need to be convinced a little bit more.
Adam.
Even if my idea of how I read this story is wrong, I still think it's appropriate. The reason why I'm not in gold in this is because as I came down to my seat, I was a little worried about what the palette. I didn't know what the black and white palette had to do with it, and as soon as I hit enter, I realised what it was. If this is not a very similar person, I'm almost going to say that it maybe will be the same person in every single frame. And what struggled me about the palette was that as soon as I thought that it's the gender, it's not a black and white thing, but here it is presented as a black and white thing everywhere we look. If it's not the same person, and I don't want to assume that it is, it's a very similar statement on gender not being black and white, and you can't look at, you're not everywhere you look, you go for another one, and you're giving another representation of a very similar issue. And as soon as I hit the button and thought of that, I went underscored. It's a very random presentation that has order yet chaos, and yet we're seeing representations of the same or similar things, and I think that's exceptionally well crafted.
Jackie, were you?
It's intriguing, isn't it? And I guess that's it's captured us all to try and work out the story, and how the graphics worked and darks is very clever. The printing is exquisite. The idea is great. So. Yeah, I'm spellbound, in a kind of way, and that's a good quality. So I'm 87. I'm listening to the final hurrah.
Melissa, you're right to reply.
Look, I think this image, it is so complex that, it does take time. And I think, Adam, you're absolutely right. I think it's the same person as well in different personas. And, because when particularly you look at that top square that anchors it, there are so many similarities in there. And I could never come up with the concept of how to represent gender in something so black and white and so structured, and it's just so brilliant. It is so innovative to be able to think from that perspective and to give us something so innovative but then has such a strong social message. So for me, I think this is innovative. The technique behind this is absolutely stunning. We could not flaw that. The printing is beautiful. To me, this sits up as a gold distinction. It makes a statement. It's strong. It's stunning.
Thank you, judges. Melissa, you stay on 95. All other judges can rescore, please. Just waiting. This print scores 92, gold. Thank you. We'll just do a judge change. Thank you very much, Cameron. Very much, Adam. And can we get David Evans and Mike Langford back in, please? Oh, good. Tick tock, tick tock. When am I allowed to press it? Oh, the world's slowest iPad here. This print scores 81. Thank you. That's a silver, so that's good. Melissa, would you like to quickly say something?
Yeah, I really enjoy this image. It's a silver award. I would look. I do enjoy, for instance, that we've chosen just to have a slightly darker than white background, because then we can actually see the contrast with the giraffe. And I do enjoy the gold, which then leads up into the other flowers. I'd love to see a little bit more separation within the flowers, and even a little bit more contrast in the giraffe going into those details, just to separate them out. And it does. Although I enjoy the tone being dropped back a little bit, I'd love it to be a little bit lighter, but just to give it a separation from sort of flatness.
Thank you. Next print, please. This print scores 79, and I have a challenge from Mark, who's on 86. The scores are 76, 76, 76, 86, 83.
Okay, this is a great again a social statement on people who get well and truly drawn into Xbox, PlayStation, online gaming and things like that. And so there are so many elements where the attention to detail by the photographer is so down to even the reflection of the screen in the window behind that has the statement "You're dead" in it. And the creepy nature of the people staring in on her, the blank nature on her face reinforces the fact that maybe she's a little bit dead. And then elements like the upturned cross on the left-hand side as well, to suggest that maybe she's gone to the dark side or worshipping Satan, that is the television screen or the screen that she's absorbed into. So there's so many levels and making so many statements in this, and the state of affairs of her life and everything else that's just laid bare as to where she is and where she shouldn't be, and what it's done to her. And that's why I put it in silver distinction.
I have three of you here at the other end. You're all on the same score. Who would like to comment?
I'll say something.
Yes.
All right. Yeah, look, the social statement's great, but I'm not sure it's a great photograph because all the elements you're saying about it are obvious in it. And I think it's the obviousness of it that makes it weak, because I'm just looking at it one-dimensionally. Everything's up front. There's no mood to it. There's no feeling of space. The lighting's really bland. I'd like to feel some sort of social mystery happening here instead of social. It's just too obvious for me.
Oh, sorry, I've got to give yours back. It doesn't stretch. Also, compositionally, I find, I completely concur with Mike. The upside down cross, the people in the background. It all about gaming and the nature of it. But I don't feel it from it. Compositionally, I find there are so many clues everywhere, but I'm just left with where I'm meant to feature. I'd love to. This I did see the "You're dead" in the the window reflection and things like that. I'd love to see that when you're lighting a room with the screen, it has quite a feel to it and a much stronger light. I just don't. I find the print is quite muddy in areas. The vignette is too heavy. I understand that some of it can be from screen, but that would be much brighter. But I didn't get a haunting or a disturbed feel from this. I just felt really manipulated and directed, and it's just so chaotic for me.
Mark, your right of reply.
The communication is pretty obvious and blatant. But I think that's a purposeful treatment by the photographer, and the vignetting would be a natural fall off from the screen, and the fact that it does have this slightly cyan tinge to it is an effect of the blue light that comes from what would now be an LED or LCD screen, and the haunting nature of the people behind, and I think obviously the humorous nature by putting a full moon in the background as well, as if basically the dead have come to life and it's Halloween and everything else. So it is blatant. It's obvious. The message is obvious, but then as a visual communication, you're straight to the point, and that's what photography is all about. Rather than trying to spend half an hour trying to read in the image, you get it straight away, and you get the message right up front. And I think the blankness on her face just reinforces the fact that okay, it's The Walking Dead outside and it's a full moon. So there's an element of humour in that as well, and that's why I put it up into silver distinction.
Okay, judges, you can rescore now, please. Mark keeps his score of 86. Come on. It's going to be a majority silver anyway. And the print score's 81. Silver, thank you. Next print, please. This print scores 79. And if I could just ask Jackie to do a quick couple of words about it.
Yeah, I think we're trying to find meaning to just take it over the line. Maybe just a little bit more space around that central area. I started to see like a cup upside down. We're, as a visual person trying to understand it, I think I need a few more clues.
Thank you very much. Next print, please. This print scores 70. And just quick couple of words from Mark, please.
I think there's obvious story here about the whole use of mobile phones and everything else with the person, and also that there's a nice type link between the sign at the top, prepare to stop, and the red light at the base. But I think again, some of the composition and technical execution of the image have really held it back.
Okay, thank you very much. Next print, please. Separate everyone. Come on. This print scores 81. And you challenge? Yes, okay. Mark, you're challenging. You're on 87.
This landscape scene scenario where I actually was, when I first walked up to it, I was thinking, okay, there's going to be a person at the end of that road. And it is insects, birds? Sorry, what? Birds? I think it's the birds. Well, I'm not quite sure what they are, but there are sort of these animals flying at the end of the pathway. And then as you go back through the image, the placement and where the photographer, the creator, has chosen to put all these elements is actually really so well done. And then there is a bird on a branch that is center to the image as well, that basically holds the balance between the dark on the left and the light on the right. And so, you know, which adds to the symbolism of light versus dark, and the fact that we've got dark birds, butterflies, whatever they are on the right, and then we have light, the same, I think, animal on the left, but in white against the dark. So we've got this nice contrast, and then a beautiful balance of the bird on the tree in the center, and that's why I put it up there with the silver distinction.
I gave the 78, mainly because I've actually found those winged elements found them distracting. They don't make sense to me. They don't add to a story to me, and my eye keeps going to them because they are becoming really important, and I don't know why they are that important. So I find them a distraction because the environment they're in is beautiful. It's beautifully printed. All the elements are good. So for me, 78 means it's good professional practice, but it doesn't quite sort of hang together.
Okay, Mark, right to reply.
I think without the winged element, it's a lovely scene. With the winged elements, we have this balance between light and dark, because on the left they are white, on the right they are dark, and we have this pivotal point in the middle, which is the bird that is not flying, sitting on the branch. So yeah, again, it's a representation of dark versus light and the different, forces of nature.
Okay, judges. Mark keeps his score at 87. Please rescore, please. Grabbing hairs. Come on, tell me what the score is. Thank you. This print, well, before I say it on here, this print scores 83. Well done to the author. Next print, please. This print scores 77. And just a comment from Mike Langford, please.
Yeah, I think the abstraction of this is working really well. Possibly either more abstract or possibly more real, but it's sitting halfway in between the two.
Good point. Okay, next print, please. This print scores 83, silver. Mark, can you just say something about it, please?
It's a beautiful construction, and I think we all went in there looking for the, for want of a better way to describe it, the Where's Wally moment, as in what are the differences between the cubes? Is there a difference? Apart from the one that has the grayscale on the top surface, and I feel that probably wasn't enough to carry us up further, to elevate us into higher scoring. And I did actually like the fact that the central greenery in the middle was a crisp element to go. And so there was a little bit of a story, but I felt we sort of needed more, I think, to carry it further.
Thank you very much. Next print, please. This print scores 79. And just have a comment from David Evans, please.
I find it's quite challenging to look at because I'm not sure of the story, and I find it quite creepy with the child moving towards that figure. So I think there just needs to be a bit of message that's a little more obvious as to why that's going on, because otherwise it makes me feel really uneasy.
I'll just correct my score, by the way. It averaged 80, but by majority it's a 79. We'll just do a judge change. Thanks very much, David. Thanks very much, Mark. And Darren Dew and Cameron Attry, please. Next print, please. This print scores 77. Mike, you're right on it.
Look, I think the base element's beautifully shot, but unfortunately in this situation, the plants look like they're actually attacking the animal as opposed to being sympathetic to the animal. So I'm finding a real visual conflict between the elements. They're not really marrying, and I think that's the problem.
Thank you very much, Mike. Next print, please. Print scores 74. Cameron, you're right on that score. Can you just say a couple of words, please?
Yeah, lovely colour harmony, and contrast in colour, and some interesting shapes and swirls and things going on there. But again, I think we're just lacking a bit of story. Take a step further.
Thank you very much. Next print, please. This print scores 76. And Melissa, you're right on that. Oh, sorry. I beg your pardon. Missed that. Challenge from Cameron, who's on 82.
Yeah, I saw enough in this image to take it into award standard. I thought it was a really unique representation and strong and in graphic nature as well. The story I'm sort of getting is that the deer is sort of peering through the forest at the hunter and trying to stay a little bit hidden. I know the story could be a little bit stronger, but I think the author's done enough to take us to that silver level. I think it's been really well handled. Tonally, it's really nice, and the choice of one I thought was quite strong.
Jackie, you're sort of in the middle.
Yeah, 174. I found the foliage, the kind of almost looks like a repetitive shape, vibrating around that deer that looks very not very photogenic to me, like a drawing. There's a message there, but it wasn't communicating. The elements not coming together in a unified way for me.
Thank you, Mike Langford.
Yeah, visually, the story is fairly obvious what's trying to be said. If we're looking through a sight, then that vignette's not strong enough for it to be a sight. It needs to be sharper. Also, the bullet holes on the left-hand bottom edge, there's 3 bullet holes there, they aren't in context with the rest of the image. So we've got lots of different elements that really aren't coming together and telling the story.
Thank you very much. Right to reply, Cameron.
Yeah, so I think we can all see the storyline there, and the author has done a reasonable job of that. It could have been done a little bit better, but I'm only asking for a sort of to get us into that silver level, and I think the author deserves that.
Okay, judges, please rescore. Cameron keeps his score at 82. It's the same. Wait a minute. Let's just wait for this. No, it's gone up 1. It's gone up from 76 to 77. Every one counts. Okay, next print, please. This print scores 75. Darren, you're right on that.
Yeah, there's a lot of elements in there that are coming together and I guess trying to build a story, but they haven't caught me. The central figure is a little bit bright for me as well, a bit overpowering for the rest of the image. So there's, so a bit more of a hook and a little bit better treatment.
Thank you. Next print, please. Okay. What's it saying? Yeah, I've got to wait because there's going to be... Yes. I'm just waiting for my iPad. Okay. This print scores 71. I have a challenge from Mike Langford, who's on 82. The other scores are 68, 67, 70, and 68. Off you go.
Well, that was to be expected. This is a really polarizing thing. You can either say this is strong and sensitive, or you can say it's complete rubbish. In this case, I've taken it to be really sensitive and a way of seeing that's, I think, appropriate. And I'm just saying the technique here is giving us very little information, but it's given us great imagination. And it's the imagination that's offering me that I'm relating to, because I'm relating to how this person's possibly feeling. And that's coming through, even though everything else is completely against what we should be judging under normal circumstances, but it's making us react to it in a whole different way. And just consider that and consider your score.
Okay. People are sitting back. Jackie, you're on 67.
Everything else being so bland, an opportunity for greatness. You try that one. There was an opportunity there for greatness. Nothing it was missed. It's a blank canvas, and I'm still not sure about what the story was. But you know, as it's sitting up there, is it growing on us? And we could all be a little bit more generous, perhaps.
No one else is keen to talk, so Mike, you've right a reply.
I think it was no one else was brave enough to talk.
So tell him off.
Look, the longer I'm looking at this, the more emotional it's becoming, the more emotive it's becoming. Jackie's about it being a missed moment. This is an incredibly long moment. This is that feeling of loss or isolation or whatever you want to imagine. And this is what it's for. It's for imagination. The longer it stays there, the more your imagination tries to fill the gaps that aren't offered. It's very simple. The lighting's really basic. The fact that we have to imagine all the things that aren't there means it's challenging. Love being challenged. My challenge is, say, this isn't a great moment. I'm saying it's 82. You know, that's not a great score. But it's a score that reflects an emotional communication in a new and subtle way, and I think it's worth looking at.
Thank you very much. Judges rescore. Mike keeps his score. Mike, do you mind just putting in your score again, please, of 82? Okay. What's this? This print scores 78. Okay, well done. Next print, please. This print scores 81. And Darren, do you want to just say a few words about it? please.
This is really quite beautiful. The colour palette, the blue background, the warmth in that dead leaf. The thing that really grabbed me was the way the transition between the top of the frame where the delicate veins are still there, then this complex the reflection and the veins in the middle of the frame, and then at the bottom we've got that same delicateness but in the reflection. It's just beautifully placed and a beautiful angle to have shot that from, and the lighting's great. It's beautifully sharp. I think it's very well executed and just is a lot more than just a picture of a dead leaf.
Thank you very much. Please. This print scores 82. That's a silver. And that's our last print for this category. Oh, yes, sorry. Please do. Who would like to comment? Jackie.
I'll comment regarding how I would have liked to. I think the four people on the right should have possibly could have been balanced with 4 people on the left and had that more of even a stronger story coming through to make that a stronger silver.
Thank you very much. Okay, I'd like to thank the judges, Darren Dew, Melissa Anderson, Adam Horrigan, Mike Langford, Jackie Rankin, Cameron Attry, Mark Duffus, Leslie Downey and David Evans, assistant panel chair, Tristan Everson, and Steph Dunn doing all the proper bits. Okay. Judges, thank you. Judges, there is lunch in the room. Melissa, Mike and Jackie